All right, cool. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and move on to our nerd news. As always, we've tried to divide up our stuff to be a little of gaming and a little bit of other entertainment avenues. And of course, as always, we have a nice little bushel of news. Adnan, do you mind if I take the first piece?
No.
No.
That was very blunt, wasn't it? I'm so hot, Chris, I'm fucking dying.
You should have done your Kevin Conroy voice. No. I can't do it, but...
I'll show Chris what happens when he comes to my podcast.
Gotham still needs me. So, okay, our first piece of
You're
news...
the Arkham Knight, aren't you?
Yeah, no, the Arkham Knight, I'd be whining more. I'd be like, Batman doesn't get me! No one understands me! But that's another tale for another day. First piece of news we have here, it was reported earlier this week that, actually I think, yeah, it was earlier this week, or was it last week? I don't know, it was this week, sorry. Brain fart.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
It was this week, Chris.
Okay, good, sorry. It's, that switched to July, sir. It was reported that Naughty Dogs had scrapped 8 months of work on Uncharted 4. So Nolan North, who, as everyone knows, is the actor behind the voice and motion capture performance of Nathan Drake, was at a Q&A panel at an event called MetroCon. And at one point, he started discussing that following Naughty Dog's decision to part ways with Amy Hennig, apparently 8 months of Henning's story had been shot for the game, like shot in motion capture, but was ultimately thrown away. So North had the following to say. He said, we had shot 8 months of her story and it was all thrown away. The Last of Us guys came in, and you have to understand, new producers, new people, they want to do it. I don't know what happened exactly. Amy is still a very, very dear friend of mine, and she's brilliant, but the Last of Us guys were the next team there, so they took over and they just wanted their own flavor. They got rid of some of the other people that were involved and just redid their thing. And then he also went on to talk about that, everything's cool, though, because Amy Hennig eventually got that job where she's working, I think it's Visceral Games, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that they're developing that new Star Wars game, and that's what she's working on. And North described it as a brand new Star Wars franchise in the style of Uncharted, before clarifying that the game will not be a revamped version of Star Wars 1313, which was the LucasArts project that was canceled back when LucasArts was dissolved by Mickey himself. That was a horrible game voice. Sorry about that. I need more. I need to lubricate my throat. Come here, there, kid. Yeah, the South Park joke. That's awesome. Don't say anything.
And he is pissed off. He's just flying over the city, breathing fire on people. I am the destroyer of Earth. Whatever he says. Mickey's
badass on South Park. That was hilarious.
He is. That is one of the best characters ever done. But that's for a story in itself.
But yeah, that's pretty crazy that Naughty Dog. I could understand why they would scrap it. Obviously they got rid of Amy. They don't want to use her story. It could be for a number of things.
Todd Stashwick.
Yeah, the dude. I believe he co-wrote it, right, with Amy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's co-writing this. He's co-writing the Star Wars game with Amy Hennig.
Yeah, that's hilarious. They got to write an Uncharted together, got fired, and then just went to Star Wars. Not a bad job, man, to back down on. Man, I got fired from one of the greatest adventure game franchises in the world. Hey, I get to write one about Star Wars. Like, that's pretty cool, man. Like, obviously I'm sure she didn't feel like that right after she got fired, but I think it's pretty impressive. Not impressive, but it's pretty ballsy that Naughty Dog is in a position where they feel like they have the resources, the time, and all that to be able to scrap 8 months of work. That's almost a whole year. That's more than half a year of work, and just do whatever they want to do.
Not necessarily. Naughty Dog works under Naughty Dog's kind of label. Doesn't matter about Sony. Sony's just a publishing studio. Mm-hmm. Granted that Sony just put a lot of funds into Naughty Dog, but Naughty Dog works under their own kind of mantra. It's the same thing they say in the documentary, like Sony doesn't really care what they do as long as they put a game out. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, the Hennig saga is something that's going to be like in history one day. Like we can actually find out what happened. Same with the Kojima Konami situation.
Oh my god! Yeah.
But like, it would make sense that Straley and Druckmann came in, and you know, they wanted to scrap everything because I don't think they wanted to take that story. You know, they've come fresh off The Last of Us,
right?
And obviously their direction, their storytelling. You know, when you play a Druckmann and Straley game, you can tell how they kind of like story-wise the characters there. There's a very much on their kind of direction. You see a much of a focus on characters' faces and emotions. Mm-hmm. Like they fucking like. I mean, like The Last of Us is like almost a, you know, something that if you ever did a degree in like gaming, like you should take it apart as a study. In like essays and stuff, because you can write so much on techniques that they're deployed in like those games, and you can kind of see it in Uncharted as well. Like a lot of emphasis has been placed on Nathan Drake and the characters, and you see like faces linger and like emotions. So I can understand why. I can obviously understand where the direction was going. I want more interested to hear what Henning's original vision was.
Yeah,
for Uncharted 4. That's more of my interest.
From what I understand, I think Nathan. I have a feeling that it was going to be that brothers storyline, but instead of Troy Baker, it was that guy that Alan mentioned was co-writing the story and was also going to be in it. I have a feeling he was going to play Nathan's brother, and then when Druckmann took over, you know, they got their Baker boy, yeah. You know, like why not get two of the voices that are in everything and put them together? It makes sense. So yeah, I think that's my theory, but I'm sure it would have been a very different story. I mean, judging from what we've seen, I think the game is in good hands. Do you guys think this was the reason why the game was delayed? Partly, yes. Do you think the 8-month, you know?
Yeah, that the minute they announced that game, I was like, that's not coming out. No fucking ways it coming out in 2015. Right. They are really pushing fucking balls to do that. Naughty Dog, like, if you look at the years that they've been releasing game, it increases. Mm-hmm. You with time and stuff. And the way they kind of did it, and obviously now the fact that we know that 8 months of stuff was scrapped, that game just didn't look complete. Like, you know, it was kind of really like, you know, it was Sony was kind of giving it that push. It's like, you know, get it out. I mean, they're Naughty Dog, like, we can't do it right now. There's no way. There's a year's worth of development, right? You can tell as well. Like, there's still areas that they're kind of polishing up. Mm-hmm. Obviously, 2 instances where Nathan, where they've had problems. E3 and PlayStation Experience. Oh, granted, they're not huge factors, but obviously you can tell that we are seeing real-time footage of the game.
I just imagine Amy Hennig, like, hired people to sabotage.
I wish we would just always see, like, some TIE fighters fly through the sky and, like, fire at Nathan Drake. Amy Hennig's the pilot.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.
Watch it all during the like presentation that they did at E3 where the Uncharted demo runs, it like just starts crackling and it shows like Amy Hennig doing a scarecrow like kind of thing. I am Naughty Dog's reckoning.
And it's just Amy Hennig with the Bane mask, like nothing more. Like, oh.
Yeah, she's not even dressed as Scarecrow, she's just dressed as Bane instead.
You think Baker was your ally?
I was born.
You merely adopted Troy Baker. I wrote him, defied.
I molded him. He didn't see the role of Joel before.
Until I passed on it. At that point, I was working on Star Wars. Dun, 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 dun.
I can't even make my great jokes either. It's too hot. I'm referring back to the fact that it's too hot. But yeah, I was very interested by that. I think in the actual the panel as well, Nolan North touched on the fact that Naughty Dog are going to make a Last of Us 2.
Yes.
He's very much like when actors are doing stuff, you're kind of very cautious about interviews. You have a very vocal PR member who stops you. He was just literally firing off like just statements left, right, and center.
Dude, he was like Vader in the Robot Chicken sketch and midichlorians. Those are just bikers. Like he revealed everything. Like, you know, like she's making a Star Wars game like Uncharted and 8 months of work and Last of Us 2. That rapist that Ellie killed came back to life. That's who I'm playing. His name is Franken Rapist. Which would be amazing if that was his character, by the way.
Yeah, like, he was very much vocal about that. I can understand. My big vision right now is that everyone at Naughty Dog is currently working on Uncharted.
Right.
There's a very small team working on The Last of Us 2 in, like, pre-production.
Smart. It's very smart to do that.
yeah, very small team. And then as soon as that project finishes, Straley and Druckmann will go and start working on The Last of Us 2, which we'll see around about 2019.
Yeah, that's about fair. I mean, me personally, I feel like I was the only person. It was like Resident Evil 4 all over again. And I don't want to get too into this because I don't want to deviate off course, but I don't really care. I liked Last of Us, but I didn't really care about it. Just like I didn't care about Resident Evil 4 when that came out. And so, like, I really wish a sequel wasn't being made only because I think the game is beautiful as is, and I think its ending, it just works so well.
The ending
as,
is captivating.
As a one-shot. Yeah,
it's so chilling. It is really chilling. Like, there's just something about it. Like, on that like one scene, I could probably write like 5,000 words.
Oh yeah,
it's just something so intriguing and like deceptive, and what it is like. You know, the characters are so grounded. Like, it's just that kind of position. If you were ever in that position, what would you do? Right. Could you admit the fact that you killed like 15 people, destroyed humanity's last hope for a cure just to save one person's life?
Yeah, just to have like a daughter, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and with that, the surrogate daughter, like she is effectively a surrogate daughter.
Right.
But no, I agree that Last of Us is kind of like rose. I think it was rose into this kind of podium because it was a really spectacular journey. I think it's very fantastic. Do I think it's like the best game ever? No.
Right.
I think it has very many flaws. I point this out. I was always like hesitant about Last of Us 2. If there was a Last of Us 2, I'd only be happy with it if it was away from Ellie and Joel. I think that story's perfect. There's no, when you get that kind of ending, that ending is purposely written for a writer to kind of leave an open-ending kind of like scenarios and what happens. I hate when directors come back and be like, "Oh, this happened." Like J.K. Rowling's doing it with Harry Potter at the minute, with like the Pottermore, where she's like, how James Potter met Vernon Dursley. I'm just like, really? Why are you destroying the mythology behind that universe? Like, things happened, and those things don't need to be explained. It's very much reminiscent of like, Brian Fuller interview from Hannibal. He said, like, we don't shoot certain scenes where Hannibal kills this victim and does this thing. Like, there's one scene in season 2 where it shows how he does kill people and how he transports them and what he does with the bodies. That one scene is like meant to represent what it is, because they're like, we don't have enough time to show you how he kills 15 people, how he moves the body, how he does this. You have to think like Hannibal Lecter. That's what we're making you think. And like, that one shot represents it. Think of it. Step in his shoes. Effectively, it's kind of irony because that show is about Will Graham stepping in his shoes. But yeah, like going back to Last of Us 2 before we end this kind of discussion, is that I'd like it if it was set in like Europe, far away from America. Like, get away from America. I hate games that keep getting set like there's a post-apocalyptic world in America, as if it's the only place that lives after a post-apocalypse. It's just so annoying. Like, as if like the US is the only country that is like alive during the infected thing. Go somewhere like Europe and then 2 characters, it's someone else. Telling the story, because it is Last of Us is very much like a open-ended meaning for it is because it can refer to many people. Right. Because like in Europe, those people will think that they are the last of those people.
That's a beautiful concept, actually. I like that. That it's always people who think that they're. I don't want to give them franchise ideas here, but like that is a cool concept.
Don't worry, we'll sue them if they take our ideas. It's already being recorded on. Was this July 1st, 2015. So Naughty Dog, if you want to approach us, feel free. Me and Chris will help you produce that game.
Yes, we would.
Dude, honestly, if they took the idea and they credited us for us, I wouldn't give a shit. I'd be like, yes.
Oh, if they, I don't care about credit. Well, credit would be nice, but we better get some of that residuals, if you know what I mean. Those sales. That was my horrible Vincent Price. Let's move on. Adnan, would you like to take this this next scandalous piece that you have brought to...
Scandalous.
It is, man. I'll let you take it away. I don't want to say too much.
Big props for Kotaku breaking this story, by the way.
Yeah.
Just a shout out. It's a big story. So this is written by Patrick Klepek at Kotaku. So he says, you can't buy Arkham Knight for PC right now. Warner Bros. Pulled it from the digital and physical shelves last week after players found that the PC version has critical performance issues. From what sources tell Kotaku, however, this shouldn't have been a surprise for Warner Bros. Warner Bros. Said, I will say, one of the sources, or assurance tester says, I will say that it's pretty rich for Warner Bros. To act like they had no idea the game was in such a horrible state. It has been like for months, and all problems we now see were the exact same, unchanged almost a year ago. So 2 sources requesting not, anonymous identities. Spoke with Kotaku over the past few weeks in hopes of explaining how the broken PC version of Arkham Knight made it out the door. They said that Warner Bros. Was aware that there were many issues facing Arkham Knight on PC and that the publisher chose to ship the game regardless, not to manically screw over customers, but because they believed it was good enough. Warner Bros. Did not respond to any comments by Kotaku. So, yeah, that's the story, effectively. And I have a bit more context on that Warner Bros. Has pulled the game from the studio. They said that it's going to release later this year. They need more months. So, very reminiscent of Arno Doran, isn't it? And his nice adventures on Assassin's Creed. So, a big story, and props to Kotaku for really breaking it. It's really, they dug deep to get that story.
What maybe you guys can both give me some more insight on this, because I've only heard like the tip of the iceberg. What exactly are the issues that the Arkham Knight, literally everything?
You can't play it. I've seen footage of it on YouTube. Yeah, it's unplayable. The frame rate drops like 5 frame rates per second.
So it's all technical. It's super technical stuff. More technical than glitches.
Do you remember Arkham Origins having its stutter moments here and there?
Right.
Kind of freezing. It's amplified by 50.
Wow, okay.
It's literally, as Alan said, unplayable. You cannot touch that game. There's nothing you can do with it.
Wow. Okay. So that does spit in the race of the master race, as they say.
That
sucks.
PC Master Race.
Joking. But that sucks if PC is your only avenue. That really blows.
Yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, it's kind of says everything about Warner Bros., doesn't it? But EA is licking their lips like we're not going to win the worst Company of the Year award this year for gaming. Absolutely kind of disgraceful, anyway, for just learning something like this. You know what? It is really bad though, because Arkham Knight was that game that had so much potential. We'll talk about this on Spoilercast later this week. We have a special guest coming on as well, who will really beef up the discussion for me and Chris. But there's this kind of belief that I had that with Arkham Knight, where everyone's building up and they thought, oh my god, this game could challenge the game. Yeah, I'm still hesitant because I just believe that this game needed at least another year of development. It's kind of there were just points where you're like, this game could be solid if it did this, and if it did this, it just followed a massive ploy that kind of just... The ploy was just so ridiculous to the point where there was so many problems, and just you kept thinking you know what, I could improve this game here and here. And obviously it's more interesting that quality assurance testers came out and frankly said this game shouldn't be out there.
Yeah.
Despite Warner Bros. Publishing it.
It's like it's the how we've always with movies also with distributors and with video games with publishers, we always hear these horror stories and I hate believing in stereotypes or things like that, but a lot of the times it's always the publisher or the distributor that does something to a creative project that makes it not live up to what its full potential could be. And Nintendo, say what you want of them, but I think Shigeru Miyamoto once said something that I thought was a beautiful concept and a beautiful vision. It was around the time that Twilight Princess had been delayed for the 17th time or whatever, when that game was delayed so many times. And he said, you know what, of course it's really, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he says, of course it sucks when we have to delay a game, but honestly, we would rather release a game that we feel is completely done and is future proof and can be enjoyed by people for generations to come. We're okay with not shipping in 2005 if we could ship in 2006 with a better game. We'd rather do that than release a game that's a piece of shit and remains a piece of shit forever. And I agree with that. I'm to the point where, look, I used to get when I was younger, I used to get really pissed that games would get delayed. But I'm at the point now that I'm like, it's cool, man, get delayed. I'd rather play your game. When Uncharted 4 got delayed, I'm like, that's cool. I would rather play a better game next year than play a glitch-filled Nathan falls through pillars and can't move, type of game in 2015 instead.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of problems. I'm getting sick and fed up of seeing broken games. I'm like, fuck off. Like, just stop publishing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I came out with criticism saying Batman Arkham Knight should not have a 3.5 gigabyte day one patch. It's becoming fucking sick and trivial now just to see something like that again and again after game. I'd point this criticism out of MGS. I'd be like, why the fuck has MGS5 got a 16 gigabyte day one patch? Different for MGS4 because MGS4 was about installing the game. Because it was fucking, there was so much on that disc anyway.
Yeah, that was a weird. That was a PS3 thing. That
was like almost a PS4 thing. Like what it is, like that's what PS4 games are doing now. They're pre-installing before they it's doing what PS4 games do when you put them in the game and like it starts to install.
Yeah, right.
And other features kind of run off it. But yeah, it is kind of like just becoming distasteful. The games are being announced too early. That's the problem. It's the same thing with Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like it blew people away at E3. But you won't see that game for another 5 years.
I just realized...
At minimum.
I just realized Uncharted 4, and I know we keep going back to Uncharted, but wasn't that game announced in, like, 2014? Or something like that?
Yeah.
I think so, and then they're like, we're not releasing this year. Like, they laughed at that question. They're like, we're not going to release.
You can tell when games are going to get announced. Like, when Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain was revealed, people knew that was fucking years off.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, the marketing has been slow. It's always been there. We know that Phantom Pain exists, that the development is going ahead and stuff like that. Some are just, like, ridiculous. I mean, did you see the interview with, what's he called? Tetsuya Narumo, the Final Fantasy VII director? Can't remember, like...
Oh, yeah. Nomura, right.
Nomura, yeah. He said, like, he didn't know he was directing Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It's like giving Steven Spielberg, like, Star Wars, and he doesn't know what he's directing. He's like, guys, why is James Bond not in this film? It's like, Steven, you're directing Star Wars. He's like, am I? Like, you're shocked. But, like, back with Warner Bros. Thing. Warner Bros. Is just, like, disgraceful as a company. Like, I talked to Chris about, like, before podcast, how they did the Hobbit thing.
Yeah, that was really fucked up, yeah.
Well, basically, because sales didn't go high enough, they discontinued the season pass and any extra DLC for The Hobbit. Kind of like, a slap in the face of customers who actually bought the DLC. And you know what? They are at the forefront as well of like, big problems with microtransactions as well. Like, a lot of their games have been doing that. Fucking Mortal Kombat is one. Mortal Kombat had issues at launch. The online was atrocious.
I have to say, though, dude, Batman, I think... Wait, Batman doesn't have any microtransactions, does it? I don't think so, right? So at least it just has that $40 season pass.
£40 worth of season pass. Planned out 6 months before the game came out, and they couldn't fix those PC issues. Priorities are there.
Yeah, at least, I mean, I think the way they, as a publisher, it's either, no microtransactions, but we have this expensive-ass thing. I mean, I think we could agree they just, I don't know. They need to sit down and rethink their lives. Definitely.
Well, I mean, the biggest message is that consumers stop buying the games. It's the same with this year. I don't plan on buying Assassin's Creed Syndicate. I don't care if it gets 10 out of 10, I won't buy it. But I'm in a situation where my money is now speaking to publishers and developers. Obviously, I do think Rocksteady has good intentions, and obviously more of the fault is on the publisher, not the developer.
Right.
But the publisher should understand when a game comes out shitty and broken, you can't sell it. It's the same thing with EA and Sims. Do you remember that? When they launched The Sims.
I wasn't, like, I didn't really look into it too much because I don't care much for The Sims, but I did, like, have my ear to the ground, and yeah, there was a lot of, like...
It was like the Titanic.
People rightfully... Yeah, that's a perfect analogy.
The Titanic set sail and it hit an iceberg within 5 minutes.
Right.
Of its release. Of its, launch from the fucking... from the dock. Like, it was literally that.
What's his face was, who's the the lead on that? I forgot his name right now. He also did Spore... I forgot his name. No, it was a developer. He was like, I'm the king of the world! And then, the fucking game crashed.
Will Wright.
Who, dude? Sorry, Alan?
Will Wright.
Yes, Will Wright. Thank you. God, I haven't heard that name in ages, man.
He hasn't done anything in ages.
Yeah. It was after The Sims he went into... He's like Obi-Wan. He's like, I went to hibernation. And he just went somewhere else.
His own world in The Sims.
Yeah, he lives in The Sims now. People don't talk about it.
I just think that it is kind of distasteful, like how Warner Bros. Do this. I think people should really kind of send a message to them now. It's not even the same case like we deal with like the GTA PC version. Like Rockstar waited their time, and now people have a PC version of Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any problems with that. I haven't actually looked into it, but I haven't heard anything.
No, because they delayed it like a bunch of times to work out the kinks.
but that's the quality assurance. So that's where I think where the game is kind of like not the kind of like the mass market, but like a lot of gamers are kind of like and huge gaming fans and everything else are getting into the fact that they understand the developers that they can trust now. Mm-hmm. So that's why Sony has such a huge audience with first party studios because they quality control a lot of the games.
Right.
Like criticisms, like for example, Beyond Two Souls can be criticized for its gameplay, but you can't deny that game has looks stunning and it runs smoothly. And it's not it's not a breaking, a make or break game where it's like, it's going to fall apart as soon as you start playing it.
Right.
It's built quality. And, that's why a lot of people like Sony now as well, because they do publish a lot of the things. Their first party studios are really under tight control, same with Microsoft. Well, maybe not Microsoft. I mean, the Halo Master Chief Collection was a mess, to say the least.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I would agree this just more than shows us that seems to be a major issue this generation. Is just like what publishers are doing with these games, The bigger the stronger the console, the more money you have to put into a production of or development of a game. And people get scared and the publishers want to be more hands-on, and unfortunately Warner Brothers has shown they kind of don't know what they're doing. But all right, we should probably move on to our next stuff. That's it for gaming news, but we're going to go ahead and move on to the entertainment side. We have two pieces of movie news. Dude, Adnan, did you want to take this first movie piece, or did you want the next one?
I'll check one.
Second one? Good choice. All right, so
Cool.
So this first piece of movie news, so apparently Jared Leto has been sending quote-unquote Joker-approved gifts to his Suicide Squad co-stars. So a lot of people, or for those of you who are unaware, Jared Leto is a method actor. That's how he approaches...
Oh, God. Another one of them.
He approaches a couple of his film roles, in that way. And so recently, he's been in character of the Joker and has been sending some of his cast members very unexpected gifts. And one of his Suicide Squad co-stars, Adam Beach, who plays the villain Slipknot, no relation to the band.
Oh, that's a shame.
Wouldn't that be great if it was just collectively the band.
Yeah, you see how I think it's 8 members now. All 8 members just come out.
Played by the same guy.
Yeah.
We are Slipknot.
Yeah.
What do you guys do? Provide the soundtrack when you do your thing.
Plot twist and a half. The ending is just a concert Slipknot playing in the US or something.
That'd be amazing. But this is what.
See that.
Yeah, but this is what he had to say when asked about it. He wrote, he sent Margaret Robbie a nice love letter with a black box with a rat in it, a live rat. It was beautiful. Then he sent bullets to Will Smith with a letter, and he sent a dead hog. Basically, what he said was, guys, I can't be there, but I want you to know I'm doing my work as hard as you guys. Also, he said the video he showed is in character. It blew our minds away. Then we realized that day this is real. So apparently with the dead pig that he sent, he also made a video. That's what he meant by the quote and stuff. It's that's kind of cool, I guess, for him to do. It's kind of interesting that I guess he wrapped up what he was doing and he's not there with them anymore, but he wanted them to feel as if the Joker is ever watchful. I guess it might be, related to the plot. Who knows at this point? It's kind of cool. It's also a little bit weird. I don't know how I would react as an actor if I received a rat with a love letter or something. I'd be curious to see how Margaret Robbie reacted to that. What's you guys' take on this news? Do you think it's you think Leto is this method acting is going to pay off?
I would send him a letter back saying, a man's wife is his life, Mr. UPS man. That's my method acting. I'm Bane. Normally I spend my time in the streets of England walking around with my Bane mask. No shirt on. Just go, I am Gotham's reckoning.
You think that pub is your ally. You merely adopted the drinks. I was born in that pub. I don't know. It's kind of a weird story, isn't it?
It is very weird. There is method acting, and there's also ridiculous method acting. I think there's a story of Daniel Day-Lewis on the set of Lincoln.
Oh.
And I think Spielberg had to keep calling him Mr. President for him to respond.
Yeah, he'd be like, I'm the president.
Yeah, like, honestly, sometimes I think like some directors must be like, there's method acting and there's fucking ludicrous. Thank God it's only GIFs and not fucking like an actual dead rat or something like, you know, more creepy. I think Margot Robbie is probably creeped out a little bit because I don't think she's a method actor at all. And Will Smith must be like, what the fuck?
Fake bullets. Fuck this.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that there is dedication behind the kind of role. I do like that Jared Leto is kind of like, you know, he's willing to go the distance. I think there's also the, what's it called? The stories about David Ayer, like a lot of isn't there like psychologists on set now and doctors? Yeah,
so they hired they hired a therapist to be on set that apparently knows the director, I think. I can't remember. And that excuse me, they have the therapist there in case you know, there's trouble with the actors, to keep them grounded, for them to, you know, realize this is just a role, shit like that. Some people
to avoid another Heath Ledger.
Yeah, that's actually
Chris pointed that out.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. Alan brings that up. Yeah, I what Adnan said, I brought that up. And you know, I know with Heath, it was a little of A and a little B. I know his stuff outside of the role of Joker, but you know, it's better safe than sorry. These are Batman and DC is notorious for having really fucked up villains.
I mean, with the Heath Ledger situation, Heath Ledger was already in like he was already in, I think, depression and like other problems.
Yeah, that was
The problem is, like, I kind of best describe the Joker as the best and worst thing that happened to Heath Ledger.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a legacy that'll go
it's a career-defining moment. It's his legacy. It's something that's going to personify him in film history more than any other role. You know, Brokeback Mountain and everything else he did was great, but you know what? I think it's like one of the, in a really weird way, it's a way that most actors dream of being sent off. Like that, that role that will define them for the decades, for the years, for the, you know, just millenniums almost. Like, you know, it's just those kind of roles. You always have those one moments where people want to kind of like set the benchmark. I think that Heath Ledger did set that. I don't think that the kind of psychology thing's a bit stupid, the doctors and stuff, because some of them aren't really method acting. And David Ayer's got a kind of interesting take, because his movies are really weird. Like, the Suicide Squad, like, aesthetic is so much different from Zack Snyder's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the DC kind of look. It's really weird, because I was watching the test footage that leaked online. Well, not test footage, the actual footage from the set that leaked online.
Right.
And it's just very strange, just the universe. It feels like a clash of, like, Sin City with The Watchmen. Almost.
It's I have to say, I agree with you. It's going to be an interesting way to see, because, you know, we talked about this before, Adnan and I, on previous podcasts, how DC really kicked this into high gear quick. They're like, did you see the $1 billion Avengers? Go, move, you know, and they got all this together. And I'd be very curious to see how this works, especially since, well, you just pointed out, the director of Suicide Squad, he's the first director outside of Zack Snyder that's going to, you know, add to this universe. So I'd be very curious, and you know, they're both coming out next year. Batman vs. Superman and Suicide Squad are 2016 releases, so I'd be very curious to see both movies and see how if they work, you know? Because I'm sure Batman vs. Superman is going to be a nice follow-up to Man of Steel, same director, you know, almost like going from Iron Man to Iron Man 2, that kind of thing.
I think...
No, it's going from Batman Forever to Batman and Robin.
Well, I mean, I meant it like in terms of creative control, because like Iron Man 1 came out, and then I think Hulk came out that same year, and then the next big project from Marvel was in 2 years later with Iron Man 2. So it was still, I think Jon Favreau directed both.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so...
I think the problem is with DC, they don't have that kingpin figure, like Feige. Like, we've always spoken about
That's
DC
true.
and kind of like Marvel, where there's that kingpin figure, like, and also Joss Whedon. Like, there's always one figure who's kind of like divided. There's like almost like a tree of lines that you can get with Marvel. Like, there's so many people connecting them, but now like DC is just kind of detached with like Ayer, and then also Nolan, who's disappeared now, and Snyder, and just kind of like figures who are just trying to push this universe collectively together. But actually, onto the actual story about Suicide Squad, I think I'm so interested in this film. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm just honestly, I love the Joker, but I also fucking hate the Joker now. Like, it's just gotten to the point where I'm like seeing him in everything. I'm just like, oh, like
It's
I'm getting
oversaturation.
Joker. Yeah, it's the fatigue of the Joker. It's just like, you know what? I can't really bear this anymore. You know what? I was really interested first when it was like Harley Quinn, it was Deadshot, it was Slipknot, playing their music, and like, you know, just just honestly, when I read that first time in the article, I was like, Corey? I was like, no, it's not Corey Taylor.
You're so cool with Harley Quinn and Will Smith, Slipknot, and their music.
I just hope that someone mocks up an image where it's like it's got all 8 members of Slipknot behind the Suicide Squad.
In Adnan's headcanon, it is Slipknot. They just somehow combine together.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was interested at first. When the Joker came out, I was like, I like put my hand in my face. I'm like, no.
But at the same time, like you have to give them credit though, because they're doing this is the first villain ensemble piece. Because now that Spider-Man, all those plans that we talked about like a year ago are dead on arrival. Yeah. They're going to be the first ones that release an all villain, you know, film. And, you know, they have to, I mean, you know, we've seen in leaked photos that apparently Batman's in it, and we've also, or at least has a cameo or something, and, you know, they have to put Joker in that, because that's what draws the audiences, it's almost like a bait and switch, you're like, oh, fuck, the Joker, and then you go and you see, and you're like, hey, he was only in it for like 5 minutes, or whatever it turns out to be, but then you stick around, you're like, hey, this movie's pretty badass. But I see what you're saying, man. Like, I mean, it's kind of like, okay, we get it, the Joker. He's so cool. Let's move on.
It's just
hopefully they do that, you know.
The problem is when the Joker is in a film, the Joker can break a film because he's the big character.
Yeah,
he's the centerpiece. The character itself loves to be the centerpiece.
Right.
And you know, you're kind of colliding with like an all-star set of villains. It's going to be hard to kind of shift the focus that, you know, the Joker is not the complete center of attention, and it's going to draw a lot of kind of problems in direction because, as I said, the Joker is a huge character. Where are you going to put him? His ego is almost like fucking massive. I was also interested in this idea of seeing Harley Quinn on her own, but now the Joker's here.
Well, I think she might be on her own. Well, whatever. We'll give the official "we'll see" stamp of approval from Gamer Headline Show, but it is. I mean, I think it's going to be a interesting movie to see. I think for a lot of reasons. Yeah,
I mean, I'm very interested. Mainly, I mean, Mr. Echo's in this from Lost. If you're just wondering, Alan. By the way, just quickly deter this. I was watching the new Game of Thrones season. I was like, why is Mr. Echo on this beach? Like, when he's talking to Tyrion Lannister, I just sat there. I was like, "Is this what happened after Lost?" Like, he didn't even go into like, you know, he didn't even go past into the afterlife. He just went straight to this island, and in Bravos, like what, like Mr. Echo. But yeah, even Common's in this film as well. By the way,
oh gosh,
the rapper.
Maybe he'll do a song with Slipknot. That'd be amazing.
We can only hope. That'd be my dream. That'd be like what an ending that'd be. That's it's actually a plot twister. It's an origin story of Slipknot and Common. But
speaking of Slipknot, Adnan, what about this next piece we have here with I hear Slipknot's doing the soundtrack for this.
Well, let's hope so.
That would be amazing, by the way. But I don't want to give away the article.
Yeah. So big announcement came. I didn't even realize this happened until Chris mentioned it, and thank God I watched it. So there's the first official trailer for the Steve Jobs biopic. So we watched a teaser a couple of weeks ago, and I think we touched on it as well. It was only like 59 seconds or so.
Yeah.
But so this trailer is around about 2 minutes 30 seconds or so, and it actually kind of gives a full picture of where the story's going. I told Chris I love the opening. Like, the opening is like
such a catchy attention grabber.
Yeah, so basically, if you haven't watched it anyway, the opening is Seth Rogen, who's playing Steve Wozniak, talking. He's like, you know, I built the circuit board. I built this for the Mac, but all I ever hear is Steve Jobs. And then Fassbender just says, like, you know, I'm the orchestrator, like, you know, I'm playing the symphony, or whatever he says. I thought it was like such a great line because that was what Apple was. Apple wouldn't be anything without Steve Jobs. Granted, that Steve Wozniak was it, but Impressions of the trailer, though, Chris. What did you think before I give you my 2 cents?
Man, dude. Well, first of all, Alan, have you seen the trailer?
No, but I did see the trailer for the new Chris Farley documentary.
There's a Chris Farley documentary?
Yeah, it's called I Am Chris Farley.
That's pretty... Man, that's
a real tearjerker, man. I almost cried.
That's the Steve Jobs.
I have to see that, man. That's because I don't want to go on a tangent, but yeah, Chris Farley, hell of a sad story that happened with him. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Alan. I'm gonna have to check that out after the cast. But for the Steve Jobs trailer, I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was. I remember when the trailer was finished, my first reaction was, I gotta see that movie. That is fucking awesome. Like, it looks very interesting, and it just looks like there's so many... It's going to be a very interesting take on Steve Jobs. I think it's going to be the way that, what we've been reading about, how it basically takes place in 3 different, iconic product launches.
Phases of his life.
Yeah, I think that is such an interesting take on him. It's literally like a 3-act movie, which is, how movies are. There's, I'm very looking forward to it, man. I think it was a really great trailer. I thought it, what's his face? Oh my god, I'm forgetting his name. He's the main actor of the movie.
Fassbender.
Thank you. Yes, Michael Fassbender. I thought really. It's weird. He doesn't look as much as Jobs, like as Ashton Kutcher did, but I feel like there's going to be a certain gravitas that's going to be brought to the role that only Fassbender could do. It's going to be a very different interpretation of the role than what Kutcher did, but I think it's going to be a much more interesting interpretation just based off of the trailer. Yeah, dude, I'm pumped for it. I don't think I'll see it in theaters only because I don't know, I'm very picky with my movies now because just the movie theaters is just so fucking expensive now that I can't pay $30 to go see a movie that, is going to look beautiful on screen, but I don't know, I just can't. This is more of like a talkie movie, a serious movie. I could see this at home and I get a similar experience. It looks great though. It looks phenomenal.
I'll probably watch this in theaters. I can't deal with fucking another superhero movie in the theaters. I was really, really impressed with it. I thought there was some great moments. I just love how it's structured. I think that's the weakness about Steve Jobs biopics that have preceded it, except for Pirates of Silicon Valley. I think, the fact is that they understand where the structures are. He's a huge life, and you have to kind of focus on different areas. Like the thing is, his personal life conflicted with Apple, and then vice versa, and a lot of stuff here and there. And you even see how he talks about Lisa, his daughter in the film, and also how his breakdown of his marriage happens. I think there's even that point where she's like, Apple's worth $440 million, and your wife, me and my child are living on benefits, and he's like, it's not my child.
Dude, that hit me like a truck. That was so
The thing is, Steve Jobs is very interesting because his reluctance to accept his daughter was ridiculous. Because obviously you also know that he names one of the computers after Lisa, the Apple Lisa, which is kind of weird as it was in itself. But it touches on some great moments. I think the great moments of where they're building the iMac. I know the iMac. They're building the Apple and the Apple II. Great moment. If you read what's it called? Walter Isaac's Steve Jobs biography. Fantastic. Honestly, it is so great reading the moments where he just drives every fucking person in that room up the wall, building the Apple I and the Apple II. Oh my god, it's ridiculous. And they even kind of capturing that, when he's what does he say? Something about 3 days. Is it something like the world's created or something? Mm-hmm. Some guy, one of the engineers asked him,
where he's she's like, you had more than enough time than how long it took the world to get made, and he's like, well, I'd love for you to tell me how you did that.
But that's a great moment like that. I just love that kind of sincere humor, because a lot of things Steve Jobs was that kind of character who always pushed people into believing that they could do more, but they couldn't. Do you want to the keyboard can't be made small? He'd be like, no, it can be made small. There's always a kind of assertive voice with him. There's always that kind of vision to make something that's perfect, which I can understand as well. And obviously, that I'm a little bit curious about curious and also pessimistic about the casting of Wozniak as Seth Rogen. I just feel like it's a very interesting. To be honest, the thing is that it's not a complete miscasting because
he looks the part. He definitely looks the part, I feel.
But when you read about Wozniak was very much like Seth Rogen. Like, the amount of jokes he played as a kid, like, they are... Yeah, like, he was all about fart jokes and stuff. Him and Steve... Like, there's so many funny stories about him and Steve Jobs, like, messing about as kids. And, like, causing all kinds of havoc. I think they got, like, when they hacked into a phone line as well at one point or something. Like, they were ridiculous as kids, and they made, like, practical jokes all the time. But I think, like, this story needs to be kind of, like, concrete and just concise and kind of, like, getting to the point and, make sure that it doesn't kind of detract from what it's telling. Because I think biopics are really hard to tell because you can go so many different angles and just, like, there's so much to cover. And especially with Steve Jobs, I mean, like, it's ridiculous where it's going to be to carry on. I think, obviously, one of my biggest things is going to be, like, see where Apple is in 10 years from now with Steve Jobs gone. We can kind of see where they're going now as well.
Definitely.
But I'm really interested in, Danny Boyle behind it. I think this is even probably could be might be Fassbender's big break for an Oscar nomination.
He's not going to do it in Assassin's Creed?
Well, you never know.
Whenever
French
that
couple
comes
might
out.
fall out of the sky during that film. Might just see someone fall straight
Even though
out
it's
the
in the
sky.
Crusades, it's still a French couple falling.
You see a French couple flying, and then you just see, like, Ubisoft's development team rush on screen, like, we're patching it, guys, and they're fixing the screen.
Just give us a second. It's like they couldn't edit this out of the movie.
It's like, guys, it doesn't work like that.
We're actually still editing the movie right now.
Yeah.
Just give us a
Cut that
moment.
scene now, quickly, hurry up.
Oh man, that's a burn. So yeah, I we'll see, man. We'll see how the movie turns out. It definitely looks like a really cool movie. Definitely a different take than the Jobs movie that came out a few years ago. Yeah, so we'll see how it turns out. Hopefully, it won't make you fall asleep at it like Social Network did.
The Social Network is a bad film. I don't care what people say. I don't get. I watched that film 3 times and I've fallen asleep during every single part of it. It's so bad.
You went and you added the Facebook creator and then de-added him just because of the movie.
Mark Zuckerberg.
He took my friend accept. Time to take him off. Like just the second you got it.
The direction's not even the bad thing. It's just the fact that it's so fucking boring. It's like, oh my god. Granted, it's Facebook. I use it every day, but I mean, like, it's just. I just don't know why I keep falling asleep. I'm like, this is so bad.
They should have had Slipknot for the
They should have
soundtrack.
Slipknot playing in the background.
If you always have Slipknot as the soundtrack, that just wakes you up.
The plot twist would have been like Mark Zuckerberg creating the first account. He's just posted a Slipknot video with status.
And then that bleeds into the credits. He clicks play, and then that's the credits.
The end.
Brilliant. Like Oscar gold.
Oscar-worthy film.
All right, well, I think that's gonna... When we start talking about Slipknot, that means the nerd news is done.
I don't even know why we're doing it as well. I love Slipknot. Like,